So I'm sitting here watching this movie called Weapons, and I've tried to watch it a couple times, but it's so close. It's the concept is that a whole bunch of these children go missing out of this classroom, and the picture that they have advertised in the movie is like looks like a female witch or vampire, and looks like somebody who we would have in Congress or whatever. So for these reasons, and knowing that movies are being treated as like a witchcraft satanic ritual for social engineering, as well as avenues by which they kind of expose themselves and cast spells on the public and do all these things, I'm having some revelations, realizing that, like, the title of the movie, Weapons, so the concept is all these children go missing. I'm only half hour into it or whatever. I haven't seen the whole thing, but so the title of the movie is Weapons. So the unspoken theme is that the children are weaponized against, they're used against, they're kind of held hostage by what, so through the release of the Epstein files and the kind of overhanging fear that, what if your child's abducted, or what if your child's taken, or all, because we know that the elite and the leaders, many of them are literally preying on the children, and so that pressure and that fear can be used against people with kids, which is no doubt a big part of the reason that they have such power, is because they've blackmailed, I'm sure they've blackmailed, do what we want you to do, or we're going to do such and such to your family, or so and so and so forth. So that's where the title of the movie Weapons comes in. And then, because if you have children, you are more, they have more to use against you to get you to do whatever they want you to do. And so then I'm thinking about, okay, messengers of God or angels of God act as emissaries of God. So God speaks through his emissaries or messengers, like the Spirit of God produces words through his messengers, right? That's why they're called messengers or angels. Okay, well, what has happened with the Antichrist system that we dwell in, I dare say, the beast system that is, I believe the beast system is either the economy or the spiritual entity that is kind of, anyway, that's beside the point. The fact is that we live under an antichrist world government. That's a fact. Especially in the United States and elsewhere, but this is just a fact. Okay? So, considering that the messengers of God act as like the mouthpieces of God, telling the truth and righteousness, what we have in this country, probably elsewhere too, but let's just think about this country, is that actors and actresses, which are professional liars, whose job it is to go in front of billions of people and produce messages that are written for them by the unseen hand of the social engineers. So, now this is true. So, now that's leaving out people like Mel Gibson independently producing movies, and people who profess Christ. Obviously, Mel Gibson is anti-Christ. But the other side of the coin is that the vast majority of people producing movies select all of the content that goes into those movies for profitability and for social engineering to push agendas in accordance with the desires that they believe will grant them the most power over humanity. That's how the content is chosen in movies and other forms of media. Okay, so that's what did Satan want to do? He wanted to become God, right? He wanted to rule, right? Well, that's what these people want to do and have been doing and are doing to the extent that they are allowed to, is rule humanity as if they were gods, right? That's what they want, right? They want to be gods. That's why Christianity is the enemy. That's why people who bow down to God, they want government to be God. They want the people in government to be the overlords. And so they act as God, and they give the messages through their emissaries, which are the people on the TV, movies, media, and everything. So they are literally the opposite, literally the Antichrist opposite of the angels and messengers of God, who have the message of God. God gives them the message through His Spirit, and they speak and produce that message. The very opposite of that is the Antichrist system, who have the social engineers and the people who are engineering humanity into further and further to be further enslaved, and their angels and their emissaries and their messengers are those who appear on the big screen, and those who appear many on the big screen. So you've got that dichotomy that you can see clearly. You've got the righteous with God on one hand, and you have the satanic social engineers on the other hand. And with this understanding, if you can receive it, and you have received it, you do have the understanding, just be careful, of how you watch things, what you watch. And hopefully, if you're not awakened to these truths, that you will awaken to it, and then rather than socially engineering you or changing your beliefs or how you feel or think or whatever, you can kind of watch what they're doing in a different light as they're basically exposed, as what they're doing is revealed, and what kind of like the emperor has no clothes or whatever, they totally lose power once you realize what they're doing. They don't have that same sway over your being once you realize the game. And so there's the game kind of big time in a nutshell right there, at least that aspect of it. So I find it fun to kind of watch and reverse engineer their messages that they have. And so let's leave that right there. And just leave that right there.